What is going on, good people? Well, I believe that Microsoft have lost their damn minds. And unless you've been living under a rock, you probably already know what I'm talking about, and that's the increase in price that Microsoft slapped on their consoles and their games. And while they're not directly citing current market conditions with the whole trade tariff war going on between the US and China, they did offer some reasons for it, the primary one being the increase in the cost of development. Now, I'm no industry expert, but I'm not entirely sold that that flies with me. Because development right now is still by and large for the current generation Xbox Series X, and it seems like, you know, the price is what it is, and it feels like usually as a technology progresses and ages, it gets cheaper to manufacture and cheaper to develop for. And I can't quite wrap my mind around how that wouldn't be the case for the Xbox Series X. It's been out for a few years now. It should be getting less costly, not more, again, market conditions notwithstanding. I feel like Microsoft, though, they have lost a very, very potentially fruitful opportunity here. Let's just face it. They've been chasing Sony and Nintendo's tails for the last two console generations. Their last big success was the 360, so it's been a hot minute. And with the announced price increases for the Nintendo line of products and Sony bumping up the price on the PlayStation 5, citing some of the same reasons, I feel like Microsoft could have made up a lot of that lost ground by just staying put. Now, I'm sure folks will say, well, they're not in business to lose money, and that's true, but sometimes in business, it's best to sacrifice a little bit of short term profit for long term gain. And I feel like they could have done that if they had positioned themselves as the cheaper alternative to the other two big players in the field. I feel like they really, really could have grown their audience, but that is not what they chose to do. And let's just get into what the pricing is going to be. Now, as you can see here, the Xbox Series S, which who even who even wants one of those? I I know when I go into any local flea markets around here, I don't see Xbox Series X nearly as much as I see piles of the Series S. I get if you're a, somebody who just wants to play the games, you're not interested in collecting, and digital is just fine, and you're not too hung up on resolution, then, I guess it could be fine. But there's nothing about that hardware that justifies a bump from 350 or roughly 350 to 430. You're talking about an $80 price hike. Your Series X digital is going from 450 to 550, so bumping it up 100, bumping it up 100 on the Series X. And if you have one of the special editions, it's going from 600 to $730. Y'all, there's no justification for this at this point. Microsoft, they have a history of selling the consoles at a loss to make it up on the back end with software. I really feel like they could have done this here. And that's why, given what they're doing and what Sony and Nintendo are doing, I would suggest to you right now is the best time in the world to pick yourself up an Xbox One and or a PlayStation 4 and play and collect on those machines. They're all still online. The games still look beautiful. Now, I know there are a lot of people that are saying right now, well, if we're going to go ahead and see these price increases like this, the main argument for consoles is that they've always been the cheapest alternative to next gen gaming, right? And I don't feel that that's true anymore. When you're having consoles bumping up against the sweaty nutsack of $750, $800, you can just build a computer. But I have to say, the conspiracy theorist in me almost thinks that Microsoft is doing this to purposely nudge people toward entering PC gaming, because right now they're seeing growth on their on the Game Pass platform on computers, right? And folks are loving it. and maybe they're trying to kind of gently nudge their OEM hardware out the door in favor of having people hop onto their laptops, their computers, their mobile devices. That way, they no longer are incurring that cost of hardware development, and they can sink all their resources just into software. I don't know. That may be the case, that may not. It's just a conspiracy theorist in me. But yeah, if I were in the market for games now, I really would start looking to the last gen. Now, I know there are a lot of folks that are going to say things along the lines like the purists are going to be like, well, those games, the graphics aren't as good, and there's pop-ins and screen tears and just, oh, it's just, it doesn't have the same draw distance. And I'm like, oh my God. Maybe it's just because I'm an old man, but I feel like honestly, visually, games hit that good enough level back in the seventh gen, and the eighth gen. The games look fantastic. I remember one of my favorite IPs of the last 10 or 15 years has been the Horizon series on PlayStation. And I was so excited to play the sequel Horizon Forbidden West when it came out. But even though it released on PlayStation 5, I don't own a PS5, and I played it on PS4. Not the Pro, although I do have one of those, but I played it on my stock day one PlayStation 4, and I thought it was freaking beautiful. And I played it on a 1080p set. It was beautiful. Everything worked. And of course, some folks are going to say that those little ticky-tack things, they break the immersion. What? I think some folks just say that kind of thing because they want to hear themselves talk, but I don't know that they necessarily believe it. Every game I've ever played had some flaws, but, and again, this is just me speaking for myself, it never really bothered me all that much. It never, it didn't ruin the whole game for me. And like, okay, here's a glitch. Cool. Move on to the next part of the game. Circle back. Go do something else. Especially in these big open world games, there's plenty to do. So it's not like, like a little bit of pop in or screen tear here is going to be that big of a deal. Not really in the long run. But yeah, I can't see me, if this is the way we're going, I don't know that I can necessarily see myself jumping onto any future hardware that these companies are making. It's just getting prohibitively expensive. And I think I'm at the point where I'm just going to stick with what I've got and maybe buy a few more games for the older library and just call it a day. Anyway, what's your take on this, folks? I mean, is this just pissing you off? Because, I mean, when you look at these price, usually toward the end of a console's life cycle, the price goes down, not up. Again, I know, market conditions. But Microsoft's a big multi-billion-dollar company. Frankly, they could have eaten it in the short term to have propped themselves up in the long term. But again, that's just me. And as always, pick your battles, because not every hill's worth dying on. And I would sure love it if y'all would do me a favor. If you got anything out of this video, any sort of entertainment, give it a big old thumbs up. Just smash that sucker right there and maybe even subscribe. And I will catch you on the next one.